Hey everyone, this is Felix from Konfidently. We are your business transformation experts, and I'm here with one of our experts, Veenu, who specializes in helping executives turn around their family life. So she's here to give you a confident approach on family connection. So Veenu, I know you've done some amazing transformation work with executives. Lay some of your wisdom on us, please.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for this. Working with entrepreneurs has been one of my things at heart, right? I mean, I've been a single mom, created my own business. I've watched the trials and tribulations. I now have 6 kids. So I get to see the effect of blaming and shaming your kids and not having that life balance. I know what's coming down the pipeline.
Right.
So now that I've done that, throughout all my education and my training, my degree in psychology, mental health professional, and self-development, I have created some programs to help the entrepreneurs not only be successful in their work life, but be successful in their home life. And to really help them understand, what does that actually look like?
Right. So entrepreneurs, they usually get really awesome at being very successful at their business. What are in family life sometimes gets left behind, right? So what are 3 things that you wish every one of those executives knew? What are some things that you wish they all knew?
So 3 of the things, Felix, that I really, really dive into, which I can say is across the board, the things that I work with when I go into family homes. And the first thing is life balance. So there's a great definition of work balance and life balance, and I disagree with that. I feel like if we're looking at life as a whole, what balances our life? Our work, our relationships, and our self. And so when I look at that and I see that work is going amazing, they're making good money, they're honored, their significance is so high in there in a positive way because people respect them, they have great relationships with them. And then when I look at their home life, I'm like, kids are yelling, kids are disrespectful. The husband's, on the wife's case, like, why can't you get them to do this? Nobody's following through. We're at the dinner table, everybody's on their devices. Right. And it's kind of interesting because on day one, I'm just observing because I really want to see everybody's filters through the way they see their life. So I'm just sitting there, taking notes, and I'm like, this is it. There's no life balance. And then the husband coils up, goes into his room and does his own thing. Well, you know what? I probably would too if I didn't feel successful there. Because at work where you feel successful, you're showing up. Everybody knows that when you walk in, but yet when you show up at home, you disappear. Why? What's really going on? Because you don't have that same feeling of success within your family. This is why people rather spend more time at work than at home. They don't want to come to the problem. At work, it's not a problem, it's an opportunity, but they see home as a problem. Why? Because they don't know what the cause is. We keep putting Band-Aids over it. Band-Aids over, oh, she broke her phone, let's get her a new one. Instead of going to the cause about, how do you respect a phone? What's your boundaries? How did it break? They're like, okay, fine, stop. We'll go to the store right now and get you a new phone. That's a Band-Aid. That's a Band-Aid. The Band-Aid is covering up the behavior so you don't have to hear it, because what you hear is what really irritates you and makes you feel yucky inside.
Right.
So when I get involved, this is where I start to see what has to happen for you to feel just as success at home as you do at the office.
Right.
In your business.
Right. Fantastic. So what's the answer? So the Band-Aid is buying them a new phone, right? So what's the solution?
So, let's rip the Band-Aid off. Okay. So if that's the real case, so what I would do is I'd sit down with the child and say, so let me understand, tell me what happened to your phone. Tell me the story behind it. I mean, it just didn't break, and I'm going to listen, and I'm going to praise them for being honest with me and letting me know how it broke. And I would say, so what, in your mind, what makes you feel that you need a new one? And what are you going to do to get the new one? What's your skin in the game? See, we're not teaching when we're like, oh, millennials are entitled. Well, of course they are. When we're not saying what's your skin in the game and we're just buying them a new $1,000 phone because it broke, because they were on a boat with their friends and they were goofing around and it fell in the water or whatever. I mean, really? So what's your skin in the game? Okay, so who's going to pay for the next $1,500 phone? Just checking, So that's getting to the cause. That's like, we're not looking for the behavior. We're looking for the presence of the conversation, the engagement, because I want that child to know that I care.
So a lot of people think that when you just mentioned that, it's all about, just the, like, the ask, like getting the why, but if that's not it, it's actually even more. It's the process. It's the time you take. It's the learning of the child. And that's what you do that makes it so successful. Okay, that's amazing. That's amazing.
And then if you notice, I didn't use why did you do it? Because when you say why, it creates that defensiveness with a kid, Even
Okay.
if, like, you said, if a kid came home like, oh my God, I got an A. Oh, why did you get the A? And all of a sudden they'll be like, I don't know. Why did I get an A? And they have to go through their mind, even though A was a good thing, they're not understanding that. Because all of a sudden they get defensive. So it's, how do we communicate with our kids without the why? So tell me about it. Tell me what you were thinking. So what was the justification for that? What, how, anything but why, to get the story out of them so you can relate to them, and then validate them. Say, you know what? I understand you feel upset about the phone. You know what? If my phone broke too, I'd feel really upset. So what do we need to do now? How are we going to work together to get you another phone? Tell me what steps you're willing to do, and I can tell you what I'm willing to do.
Great. And so that presence that you give them, the time that you give them, that starts building the relationship again.
And think about it. If this is the dad, right, the entrepreneur has this conversation, and they come to a great, meaningful conversation where she gets the phone and she put in half of it and dad put in half of it. How do you think that dad's going to feel now? Pretty successful.
Right. And so you're not talking about like hours and hours a day of giving them your presence. Like what is just a good amount of time that, busy entrepreneurs can come home and they can put in X amount of time and be very successful with their kids and watch a complete change of behavior. How much time would you recommend?
So I tell people, the best thing to do is, if dinner time is 6, and they're going to go to bed between 8 or 8:30. And if they're older kids, I promise you, they're going to go to their room about 8:30 because they got other things to do than hang out with mom and dad. So if you could just block off those 2 hours in your day to give to them, that's eating dinner, that's cleaning the kitchen together, that's having family time together, and then disperse and do what all you all want to do. How amazing is that? Now, I have other people that really don't have that time. Like their business is starting to boom, especially coming out of COVID, and they're putting everything they got into it. So I'm even telling them, give 20 minutes. And that means get off these, get present. There's no interruptions. It's just you and them. And you ask them, what do you want to do? Some of them some of them want to play a game with you. Some of them, it could be a simple game of Uno, and they're so lit up that you took time out of your day because they know how busy you are. They see it. And that's what we need to tell our kids. It's like, it's not what we say, it's what we do. How we show up for our kids is how our kids are going to show up for us.
Right. Great. So presence. Number 1, presence. Make sure that when you get home, give them presents, not presents, but presents. Give them you.
And that will give that life balance back, right? That'll make you successful at home as you are in your office.
Okay. So what are some other things that you recommend?
So another thing that I would recommend is, self-worth.
Okay.
Self-worth is huge. I just wrote an ebook on this that people can download for free on my website. And in that, it talks about 3 proven steps to help raise your child's self-esteem. And one of the things that I would say most of all is looking at celebration. We do not do it enough. If a child, passes, a reading test, it's like, oh, you did good. Yay. Okay. What's for dinner? That's not celebrating it. Celebrating is, oh my gosh, you passed it. How did you feel in that moment? Tell me what you did. Did you scream? Did you clap? If I was going to celebrate that with you, how are you, what would you want me to do? Your kid might say, well, I want you to do 5 jumping jacks with me. Great. Let's do 5 jumping jacks to celebrate you passed that reading test. That's celebration. That's saying that you heard, you understood, and guess what? They're going to feel they're worth it now. Right. They were worth more than just oh, you did a good job. Oh, did you want chicken nuggets tonight?
Yeah.
They're worth more than that.
Awesome. Fantastic.
That's one way. And, you know, another way, again, it goes back to presence is probably a lot of it. You know, letting them know that they're worth it. You know, when they see you, you know, read, it could be even reading a book. If they know that you're reading that book, and they're like, hey, Dad, can you do this? Can you come play ball with me? He's like, honey, I'm almost done with this last chapter. Let me get back to this last chapter. That book to him is more worth it than you playing ball with him.
And I think a lot of people don't even realize that's the meaning that kids will take out of it.
Correct.
You know, like to slow down and actually see how you're responding to your kids when they're asking you for time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, and remember, if you're not going to give it to them that way, they're going to get it. They're going to get it. They're going to act out. They're going to have behaviors. You know, I wrote about this one story in my book, a client years ago, and it was so funny as I wrote in the book. I'm like, oh my God, that's what it was about. This child was 12 years old. She tried to set their trailer on fire. She had punched walls. And so I get called in. At the time, I'm a mental health professional working for the state. I get called into this house, and this child's having all these behaviors. The behavior stopped when I got involved because I started to realize, like, these behaviors, every time she had one, the families would let her stay home from school. They'd spend time with her. They would take off from work and they'd be with her.
They want the attention. They need that. They
All
want
of a sudden, she knew she was worth it.
Right.
But I'm only worth it if I act out, because when she's doing good, they were going to work. She was going to school. They come home. How'd you do? I got an A on my reading test. Okay, great. What do you want? Chicken nuggets? Okay, great. I'm going to make them. You know, that's life.
Right.
Yet when she acted out or tried to put the house on fire, you know, or whatever, she stayed home from school. They took off from work. And so she created this formula. All I have to do is act out and I'm seen, I'm heard. So remember, self-worth is how we feel about ourselves.
Right.
So, you know, we're only going to feel good enough as our parents make us feel good enough.
Wow. So imagine like all the parents that complain about their teenagers and they tell all their friends, watch out for when your kids become teenagers, is that maybe all this could have been completely different because of just a little bit of time that we took and actually were present. Wow. Wow, that's a lot to chew on right there. But I think you have even one more thing that you're going to tell, like another tip.
I do. This is the big one. This is the big one.
All right.
Okay. The biggest one I have to offer you guys, I would put under the umbrella of boundaries. So, you know, as a woman, my house is my boundary. You know, I remember as a kid when I was mad at my friend, okay, you can't cross the boundary. It's my property. You can't, don't put your foot over that. That's my boundary, my property.
Right.
Because it made us feel safe. So if you have a child and there's no boundaries, how do they feel safe? How do they know you care about them? How do they know they're worth it to you? You know, and so I'll give you another example. I was working with a client and she's 16 years old. And so we were just talking about, you know, when she goes and stay the night at her friend's house, I said, so do you have to check in with your mom, you know, or your dad? And they're like, no. I said, so, I mean, do you stay there just one night? And she's like, well, sometimes I'll stay for like 2 or 3 nights. I'm like, does your parents ask? And she's like, no. I said, so you don't have to ask your parents if you can stay another night. No. Well, when do you hear from your parents? She goes, well, if I don't come home the next night, mom will call and say, so how many nights are you staying there? So you get to make the decision. She goes, yeah. I said, interesting. I said, you know, I get as a kid how exciting that is. She goes, oh yeah, because all my friends, they got to ask their mom. And I am so glad that I could just tell them what I'm doing. And my parents are like, go, go, go.
Wow.
And I said, yeah, you know what? I really probably would have liked that too, because I grew up with a lot of rules. And I said, but let me ask you a question. How much do you feel that you're cared about? And she was like, huh? And I said, well, if your parents aren't checking on you, do you really feel like they even care if you even made it there or not? And she goes, oh. And I said, and if you get to tell your parents how many days you want to stay and they don't care how much you stay, do you really feel like you're wanted at home? And she goes, huh. And I said, it's just a question. I mean, the answer may be no. And she goes, no. Yeah. I said, oh, okay. So no wonder you don't have that great communication with your parents because she's the one that's flipping the parents off. She's the one that's yelling and leaving and the parents like, whatever, she's gone, right? The BandAid that we talked about, the BandAid. And so working with her for a while, and working with the parents, we put boundaries.
Mm.
You know, what's her curfew? You know, how long is she allowed to have her phone? Where's the phone charger station going to be at night? So she can't have it anymore at night. You know, what's her passwords to her social media? And guess what? The kid went for it. You know why? Because it was her idea. I asked these kids to set up their own boundaries.
And when you set their own boundaries, whose is it?
There. And you know what? They feel worth it though, right? And they've got their buy-in now.
Yep.
So so what's your schedule going to be? What time you want to get up? Da, 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 da. You know, tell me how much screen time you think you need. And trust me, I get the whole 8 hours. I'm like, well, let's just Google that for a minute. Let's look at your age, Google that. And, you know, let's compromise with what they say. Google says 2 hours. And I'm like, 2 hours? I said, hey, we're not saying 2 hours, but let's be reasonable.
Right.
And so we come up with a reasonable time. And then we talk about chores. They're like, chores? And I'm like, you don't have chores? Well, what do you mean chores? Seriously, what do you mean chores? I'm like, vacuum, dishes, wipe the counter. Oh, we have a cleaning lady. I said, yeah. I said, well, let me ask you something. You're 16 in 2 years, you're out. You could be out on your own at 18. Are you going to know how to clean a toilet? Are you going to know how to, you know, do dishes, cook a dish? And she's like, well, I think so. I said, have you ever cleaned a toilet? You know, I mean, so again, now I have their buy-in because it's not that you have to, it's a get to.
Right. So
you know, I'm going to prepare you how to be an adult.
So it's not just setting boundaries. It's the whole methodology on how to get them to understand boundaries mean love. That understand boundaries mean that we care for you, and then having them set it so it becomes theirs.
Yes, and that they're worth it, right?
Yeah. So
and then the last thing that we do is they set their consequences. So I am, as a behavior specialist, I try to stay away from consequences. You know, although we'll do more to avoid pain than we will to go to pleasure. And I know kids are like that, but that's how they're programmed. Right. So I take the whole, everybody's got an A in the class. It's up to you to keep it. Like that's my methodology. Okay. So, you know, but we still have to have consequences because that's how they test the boundaries to say, are you going to follow through? Are you going to follow through? Let me just test this time. Are you going to follow through? And so they set their own consequence. So like, for instance, you know, one of the consequences for having that tonality that's very rude and obtrusive to your parents, which that's a boundary now that we're not going to talk to parents like that. When that happens, what are you going to do? So one of my clients came up with this brilliant thing that I will go and write down 3 to 5 things that I can say differently. I said, I love that. So if you tell your parents to shut up, you know that that's not appropriate. Yeah. I said, so then what are you going to do? Then I'm going to go to my room and I'm going to write 5 different ways I could have asked my mom to stop talking to me because it was irritating me. I said, beautiful. And they did. So one of the things was like, I need to explain to my mom how her voice is irritating me and that it's starting to trigger me. I think that's beautiful because that child has never communicated how she felt to her parents. Right. Although she has through her behavior, but now I'm getting her to verbally communicate it. Like I'm getting triggered. I'm getting frustrated. Or she could say to her mom, you know what, right now we're not getting along. So I just need to take a break. Can we talk about this in about 10 minutes? Perfect. So she came up with these different things. Of course, it was working with me for like 4 days straight, but you know, she was able to come up with these things just through my coaching to realize that I can have the same outcome of my mom being quiet at that moment if I just ask in a different way and I actually share what I'm feeling. Wow.
Awesome. Well, Veenu, I mean, these are 3 things that every business owner can be successful at. It doesn't take 8 hours a day, but if you're seeing behavior from your kids that you don't necessarily like, stop running away from it. You know, be present, you know, like give them presence, give those boundaries and give them self-worth. Right. I mean, these are amazing things that we can all do. For sure.
And, you know, and I tell these entrepreneurs that hire me, you know, it's like when you first got this idea to create this business or be a business, you asked for help. Like you didn't just know how to go do it. So, you know what? It's okay to ask for help. Like who can help me be successful in my family life? Right. You know, that's who I am. I'm the person that can help you design your family life to create that success plan for you. So you have a business plan, you have a family plan, and that's what I do.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, for all the entrepreneurs that are looking at this, watching this right now, imagine I mean, your business is already successful right now, in spite of some family turmoil. Imagine if your family was running as well as your business was, what you could actually achieve in both areas at that point.
Oh
right?
yeah, most
But
definitely.
also, so for all you watching, that's what Veenu does, right? And so you go in. So you have many ways of doing this. You have the kids that are clients. You actually go into homes for 3 days and do complete turnarounds. You also do coaching, just like on a weekly or monthly basis for executives as well. How fast can you turn a house around, a whole house?
4 days.
4 days.
You give me 4 days. You give me 4 days. It'll be amazing. And also, I've gone into companies also and talked about this, right? So companies have their executive managers and they have their team meetings. So me coming in, hiring me to come and speak to your company, to understand about how they have that life balance. Think about how much more productive your staff is going to be for your company if they really learn how to balance their whole life.
Wow.
And which family is, right? So coming into companies, I've been doing too, right? So I go into companies and really help balance and help people understand how to release the negativity and the problems and see them actually as opportunities.
Yep. Yeah, because like if they're having turmoil at home, it shows up in the meetings. It shows up in how they react to other people. It shows up in their work. So
it's their filter. It's the filter that they're coming into work with. And people can say, oh, leave your baggage at the door. Well, that's my filter I'm in right now.
Right.
Because when I leave this in 8 hours, I'm going back to that. And in my mind, I'm going to work for you, but I'm already contemplating like, how am I going to deal with that? How am I going to deal with that? Am I going to get a call at 5 o'clock, or 2 o'clock, So how do we teach the people, you want your productivity to be better at work? Have me come into your office. Have me teach these people these strategies, and you watch productivity get better because they're letting all that go.
Very nice. Well, Veenu, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate this confident approach. And for those executives out there, I hope you learn and adopt these 3 things that you can do every day. Simple things you can do every day. And if you need help, we're here to help you. Thank you so much.
Bye.